Hi, welcome to the Marketplace. Coming up, we look into Africa's fintech market ahead of the 3i Africa Summit, a groundbreaking event expected to unleash the continent's fintech and digital economic potential. I'll be speaking with Kwame Opon, Director of Fintech and Innovation Office at the Bank of Ghana. Plus, we talk Africa trade with President of VistaJet's airline, Europe and Africa, Felipe Scalabrini.
Ability to travel, to be conducting business face-to-face with your peers, that's really what this agreement is meant to drive. So again, we're offering a set of business tools that allow people to travel.
My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. And thanks for staying with us, everyone. First up, more airline companies have expressed interest in engaging the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat to facilitate the haulage of goods under the African Continental Free Trade Area. President of VistaJet's airline, Europe and Africa, Felipe Scalabrini, says it is imperative for African countries to trade amongst themselves, hence aid in mobilizing revenue for economic growth. He has been speaking with my colleague, James Ishen.
So VistaJet is the leading private jet company in the world. We operate over 300 airplanes worldwide, and we are here today to offer a very unique solution for West Africa, where we've deployed a fleet of 3 Challenger 605s to expand the network for our clients at VistaJet. So what it means is our clients can fly point to point without any hassle anywhere across Africa, the same way that they can fly in Europe, in the US, or in Asia.
Do we know the countries you guys are operating in so far?
So in Africa, you mean? Yeah. So I mean, we've operated to 98% of the world, so we can literally fly anywhere. We've been in Africa for over 14 years. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary this year. So really what's different today is we've started 3 years ago to deploying aircraft that are dedicated to the West African region and African region as a whole. And Accra is obviously a very big hub for us. It's always been traditionally a very active marketplace for us. So it was just a natural hub for us over the years, and this is where we felt that we should be introducing our services today.
Now let's look at the aviation space. Before that, let me ask, why Ghana and Accra?
Yeah, we feel that Ghana is a great introduction point. It's a very dynamic market. There's a lot of very dynamic companies, entrepreneurs. We also see a lot of external companies coming from the US and Europe. So it was always a very important place of business for us.
Now let's look at the prospect challenges that is in line with the aviation sector in our part of the world. From what you've seen so far, well, how is it like?
In terms of the challenges that we're facing, I think the biggest challenge that we face in Africa is the size of Africa. It's such a big place that we cannot do what we're doing slowly. It's got to be done very quickly. We need to deploy assets very quickly. So that's why we started 3 years ago. We're already at 3 airplanes, but we have a lot more airplanes that are coming and going. And as we need more airplanes, we can deploy more assets. But really our biggest challenge is probably the size of the opportunity and making sure that we can back it up and have enough airplanes to satisfy our very demanding customers.
Let's talk about the prospects. How far with it?
In terms of prospects, I mean, we're looking at entrepreneurs, decision makers, companies, government officials, to really people who need, to save time. These assets are really a tool in themselves. They're allowing people to save time, to get to where they need to be on time, safely, across all the different regions.
Let's look at trade facilitation. There's a conversation of the AfCFTA. I don't know if you've heard of that, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. With your operations in AfCFTA, do you sort of translate that into any of your operations in any way?
Yeah, I think that's exactly why we're here. The ability to travel, to be conducting business face to face with your peers. That's really what this agreement is meant to drive. So again, we're offering a set of business tools that allow people to travel efficiently, safely to their next business meeting.
Wow, it's building momentum and it's only a few days away. I'm talking about the 3i Africa Summit, a groundbreaking global event centered on transforming Africa's economic landscape through sustainable long-term capital allocation, also aimed at unlocking Africa's digital and financial potential. Convened by the Bank of Ghana, the Development Bank Ghana, in collaboration with Elevandi, the summit is bringing together heads of state, key finance sector players, and industry experts from across the globe. In a bit, I'll be speaking with Kwame Opon, Director of Fintech and Innovation Office at the Bank of Ghana on this program, set to take place from the 13th to the 15th of May. But first, some insight into Africa's fintech market. So the Africa fintech market is projected to reach $65 billion by 2030, representing a 13-fold increase over 2021, according to a study conducted by BCG and QED investors. Now, this will make it the world's fastest growing region alongside Latin America, which is predicted to see only 12.5-fold growth. North America, in contrast, will only see a 4.4 times increase, although revenue there and in the Asia-Pacific region will remain far ahead of the rest of the world. Also, BCG attributes Africa's fintech sector growth to leapfrogging in technology and the emergence of fintech champions. Currently, most of Africa's fintech revenue is generated by companies based in Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, and Kenya. And BCG predicts that this trend will likely continue until 2030. So what are the challenges that need to be addressed before 2030, apart from regulation, which has traditionally hindered the African fintech growth? The low level of large-scale funding and the increasing brain drain pose obstacles to the full potential of the African fintech market. Well, like I said, coming upon that, this Director of Fintech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana, he's on Zoom with us to take a look at the 3i Africa Summit, which will be exploring some of these challenges. Thank you so much for joining us here on the marketplace. For anyone hearing about the 3i Africa Summit for the first time, tell us about it.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. So the 3i Africa Summit is a conference that really looks at achieving a few things. One, policy dialogue that helps move the bar and help move the needle on the friction between regulation, as you mentioned, and the opportunities that the African innovators and the financial sector more broadly is looking to take advantage of. And so trying to have that open conversation between the policymakers and regulators, as well as investors who come together with service providers to really understand how to make progress on these issues. But also importantly, it also is an opportunity to highlight the innovation on the African continent, amazing options that we see here, even in Ghana, and the variety of innovations that both banks and non-banks are providing, and be able to attract investment that would help them grow and scale such that ultimately it would result in the impact that we want from a social and economic standpoint, whether it's financial inclusion or anything else.
So the theme for this event, Unleashing Africa's Fintech and Digital Economic Potential, why is that crucial?
That is crucial because study after study, both locally and internationally sourced, it has become abundantly clear that this continent has not only the incredible human potential and capacity, but also we do have the ingenuity to really be able to take advantage of some of these emerging opportunities. So when you look at things like AI, or when you look at things within the digital asset space and Web3, you'd be perhaps surprised if you're not paying attention to this whole industry, that there are many Ghanaian innovators who are creating very useful products and services that are relevant to the development of the broader economy, but also relevant to advancing the livelihoods and enhancing the livelihoods of individuals. And so this is what we're trying to capture in this 3I Summit, and that's why the focus is on the Africa FinTech potential and the broader digital economy.
Yeah, so I guess the next question would be, how do we unleash that potential? I guess that's the reason you're bringing together some of the best experts in the field. What would be on the table for discussion? What are some of the subjects that you'd be deliberating on?
Certainly, and I think, even before that, it's really about what partners do you have coming to the table to have the discussion, right? So we have over 240 speakers from around the world and upwards of 4,000 registered participants from 79 countries coming in to have discussions around things like digital public infrastructure. I mean, look how long it took us as a country to fully deploy national ID and biometric national ID system. The power of that alone is something that we often do not truly recognize, but as time goes on, I think people will see the full extent of having a single source of truth that establishes who I am as an individual. Artificial intelligence, ESG, machine learning, digital assets, central bank digital currencies. When you even look at issues around regulation and policies, that can really either constrain or enable the sector. These are pertinent issues that we're bringing all the key stakeholders to the table. And I think for the first time, we're bringing the three key players, regulators, innovators, and investors to the table to have an open conversation and dialogue about how we make progress. One, what are the regulatory barriers that, as it stands, whether it's Ghana or anywhere else, even for all the progress we have made, we continue to have some challenges. And that type of dialogue is what helps us understand not just what these challenges are, but also how we can work to collaboratively resolve them so that the innovators and the financial service providers can also build and develop products to serve their customers that can help both the customers and them as businesses. And from the investor side as well, I think getting that certainty from a regulatory standpoint, getting that clarity from a policy standpoint, and seeing the policy direction that encourages investment would also help channel a lot more investment into the sector, which benefits us overall, both as a country and as a continent.
All right. I mean, you mentioned some of the barriers, some of the challenges, including regulation, also the low level of funding. How do you hope that this conference will, shape policy and influence change going forward?
I think often when it comes to policy, asymmetry is one of the big challenges that perhaps restricts the growth of certain sectors. And it is very instructive that for us as a central bank, we're playing a leading role in even convening this type of gathering. Because that in itself, and if you look at the journey of even the mobile money sector in Ghana, that indication and that policy step that Bank of Ghana took suddenly had a big impact on how sector players began to invest in driving the mobile money sector, which has today helped drive much of our financial inclusion in collaboration with banks as well. And so similarly, we're hoping that what we're doing is sending a signal to the broader community, not just in Ghana, by the way, but across the continent. And there are other central banks who are participating to have the same discussion because, in fact, the challenges are similar across the continent. So that's one, the policy indication and signaling. The second aspect has to do with actual concrete policy steps, which is something that we're going to be discussing here amongst even the Committee of Governors to really see how we can address certain things. I mean, if you look at cross-border payments, for instance, we're promoting AfCFTA, and it's going to have a significant impact on us long-term and really help with integrating us as a continent economically. But for every product or good or service that moves in one direction, we have to expect there's payment coming in the other direction. But on the other hand, there are implications to some of these things. How do we address them? So this is the kind of discussion we expect to have that leads to concrete policy outcomes. Now, beyond the policy as well is actual industry impact as well. One of them is that, among the over 200 investors that we've invited, there's actually going to be a deal room to allow, and a pitch fest that allows innovators on the continent engage these investors to be able to present their solutions, to be able to discuss the potential for investment in their business. And many of them are actually coming from other countries, not just Ghana, But we're happy to have created the forum for this type of engagement to occur. And hopefully, you're going to find young at heart innovators on the continent and even established businesses be able to attract investment to scale whatever innovation they have and ultimately impact everyone else.
How would you say our fintech industry is faring locally, and from the perspective of the regulator? What are some of the things the measures you've put in place to ensure a sound market for fintechs?
Certainly, I think ultimately for us, our guiding principle is safe innovation, right? Not every innovation goes in the right direction sometimes. And so that's the role that we play as a regulator. And it is not an exact science, as you would expect. I think country after country, whether developed or developing, this is the reality. But what we've also noticed, managing the sector for a while, is that a collaborative and engaging approach to regulation often helps with addressing some of those challenges. So if you take very basic things like governance, one of our principles is that we want companies in the space to be properly organized, i.e. legally registered, safely organized from an administration perspective, so managed by having the right personnel, and also having a very good future outlook, right? And when you look at all of this, it is no different from what an investor would also want to see. And so, for instance, this is an area that I think you would find investors and regulators having a common agenda. Proper governance to ensure that businesses that are built to last. So investors and shareholders, as well as the general public, both can enjoy the value that is created as a result of it. So it is not an exact science, and it's always going to be a learning process. But where you have regulators who are open-minded to engage and evolve policy to ensure that the sector is adequately safeguarded, but at the same time, giving the opportunity to grow, that's the kind of guidance and that's the kind of approach that we think is useful. So we see right now in Ghana, we have about 54 entities currently licensed to operate, and a lot of up-and-coming startups who we are quietly nurturing and helping structure so that they can also understand how to play in the space and add value in a way that over the long term, their businesses are sustainable.
Well, final question. I mean, it looks like you're overbooked because I've checked the list of people and experts that you're expecting from across the globe. Who can take part in this event, and what are the other highlights to look out for?
Thank you. So everyone, I think when you look at the fintech and digital economy sector, from financial technology companies to banks to mobile money companies to other stakeholders, development partners, agri-tech, the creative community, they play a big role in much of what we do as well. And we recently learned so much about that space. Just go to 3iafrica.com and register. The highlights of the event, in addition to all the policy discussions, the deal room, the pitch fest, there are a few interesting things that we have going on. One of it is a sandbox that we've created, a special sandbox cohort for the participating innovators who are exhibiting to be able to allow people who are in the conference to use their product and services. This is one of a kind for a conference, and I think people who get here will have quite the experience using that, because whether as a regulator, whether as a policymaker, whether as a potential business partner, it's one thing to share a brochure, but it's another thing to give them the opportunity to use the product. And finally, I should mention that there will also be a digital village where some of these products can be used to make payments for goods and services. And that, of course, includes our very own ECD, Ghana's central bank digital currency, that will also be available for testing during the 3i Summit.
All right, Kwame Opon, thank you so much for joining us here on The Marketplace, Head of Fintech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana. Appreciate your time with us. We'll talk about technology. The president of the Ghana Insurance Associations charged insurance practitioners to keep themselves abreast of emerging technology. According to him, the evolution of technology has the potential to change the operations and delivery of insurance services. He spoke at the 2024 Ghana Insurance Association Annual Educational Seminar.
Ghana Insurance Association's annual educational seminar offers training sessions for various lines of business under the insurance industry. The seminar hopes to offer hands-on capacity building sessions on underwriting, claims, reinsurance, insurtech, and other areas. The gathering also provides practitioners and students an opportunity to network and share ideas for the growth of the insurance industry. In his address, President of the Ghana Insurance Association, Seth Aklasi, charged insurance practitioners to keep themselves abreast with emerging technology to deliver cutting-edge insurance services.
We're gathered here this morning as an industry to refresh our knowledge and learn new things that we so much need. In this day and age, where there is talk of artificial intelligence taking our jobs, we cannot sit and rest on our laurels. This is the age that knowledge, and I'd emphasize, knowledge has to lead. With AI making a lot of things easier for all of us, we can only be in charge if we are knowledgeable enough to take control of the things that we, as human beings, are superior over.
The chief executive of the Ghana Insurance Association, Dr. Kingsley Kwabesin, urged students and practitioners to take advantage of the training program.
We didn't have the opportunity to have first-hand information about practice, and so we urge them to take full advantage of the seminar and don't just look at the academic aspect, but look at the practical issues that one has to deal with when he decides to move into the area of insurance. We will urge them and we'll work with them to support them just so that we'll be able to deliver better service.
Mercy Nakoshi-Boateng is CEO of Serene Insurance and a member of the GIA board.
We are here to ensure that every year we look at the pertinent issues based on feedback we gather from the customers, feedback we gather from other stakeholders, pick topics, build topics around those feedback, and then build capacity of our members so that we'll have better service delivery and better customer service, and we'll exceed the all endeavor to meet the expectation of our customers.
The 2024 GIA Annual Educational Fair was held on the theme, Advancing Excellence Through Collective Empowerment.
Right, before we go, time to put the spotlight on what is trending in politics and how that relates to the economy. The Electoral Commission has begun the limited voter registration exercise for first-time voters and persons who wish to own a voter ID. Well, most of them will be turning 18 for the first time, did I say. Well, how would that influence their decision heading to the polls in December? Joining me in studio, Kweku Asante, who is part of the best political team there is in the country. Thanks for being in the studio with us, Kweku. So, yeah. I mean, we've spoken to some of the young people. Unemployment remains a major issue for them. How is that going to influence decision-making in 2024?
It appears it is the biggest decision going into 2024. And we've just started a new series, Just Turn 18. Or you have been talking to persons who are first-time voters, persons who are just leaving senior high school, many of whom are now in university. The big concern for them is unemployment and the employment situation in the country. For so many of them, they see people in their area, they see people in their family, they see people that they know, some of their seniors in school, who have gone on to finish university and have no job. There are those who have learned some trade, and the economy is in such a way that even their trade is not at the level they wanted to get. So one of the biggest takeaways from Just Turn 18 was that young voters are really beginning to think more about the economy going into the election. Of course, there are those who've spoken about free senior high school and how important it was for them, because for many of those persons who are just turned 18, they had just come out of senior high school, just first or second year in the university. And they talk about how crucial that was to get their parents off the kind of pressure that they would have felt. So that is a big concern for them. But ultimately, when you finish senior high school and you go through university and you come out and you don't have a work to do, something to keep the body and the soul together, then you begin to think that maybe the free senior high school really didn't get anything for you. 45
seconds. How well are the political parties doing with directing the messages to the young people who are fixing the unemployment situation?
I think it becomes such a big issue. John Mahama is all over the place talking about his 24-hour economy and what he says is the reason why there are going to be jobs created. But Dr. Bawumia is also stirring, and he's talking about his 10-point agenda, which is really going to create a number of jobs going into 2024. So both political parties know how crucial these age bracket of voters are really, and they are really pushing the message to them going into 2024.
All right, we'll be watching. Thank you so much, Kweku Asante, to join us with that. We appreciate it. And that's the marketplace, everyone. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. We'll be back same time tomorrow.